Everyone's still talking about the tariffs. Most people are terrified of the tariffs because the mainstream media has convinced people that Trump's tariffs have destroyed the American economy because the stock market has been down for about a week. But anybody who knows anything about investing or the history of the market knows that you can't judge the market based off of its performance over a day, over a week, over a month, or really over a year. Here is what President Trump said last night about his plan.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate. Congress takes over negotiating. Sell America fast because you're going to go busted. You don't. I just saw it today. A couple of your congressmen said, I think we should get involved in the negotiation of the tariffs. Oh, that's what I need. I need some guy telling me how to negotiate.
And as of today, the tariffs on imports from China are 104%, exacerbating the freak out for people crying about how their next iPhone is going to cost $3,000. But I got news for you. If you're buying a new iPhone every year or even every other year, you are a complete moron. Here's what Kevin O'Leary had to say last night about the 104%.
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that look like?
I want Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese.
That's interesting. He sounds like every American before half the country came down with Trump derangement syndrome, including Chuck Schumer. Here he is back in 2011.
Our economic relationship with China needs a fundamental change, whether it's poaching intellectual property, unfairly and illegally subsidizing Chinese businesses, monopolizing rare earths, not allowing American companies to compete in China on issue after issue after issue. Americans have grimaced, shrugged their shoulders, but never done anything effective to, in large measure, stop the Chinese pursuit of unfair mercantilism. The administration must impose duties on those imports to offset or countervail the benefit conferred on foreign producers and exporters by government subsidies. We're already in a trade war with China, and we're losing. China, by its mercantilist policies, on currency above all, but on rare earth and intellectual property, on subsidization of homegrown industries, on exclusion of American exports, where we might have advantage, they're already engaged in a trade war.
Interesting, because that's exactly the same thing that Nasty Pelosi was talking about many years earlier in 1996. I'll spare you having to listen to her shrill voice. I played this clip in a previous video. If you missed it, go and check it out. Of course, President Trump has been calling this out for decades as well. Here is a clip of him back in 2012, highlighting his strategy to try to fix the problem.
And somebody said, well, what would you do? What can you do? So easy. I drop a 25% tax on China. And I said to somebody that it's really the messenger. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you mother, we're going to tax you 25%.
Or how about 104%? How you like them apples? And again, this is going to cause some economic uncertainty in the short term, or maybe even in the midterm, because you can't judge these policies based off of what your 401k's performance has been over the last week or even what it's going to be over the next month, or even over the next year. I'm not going to play these clips again of legendary investor Peter Lynch and John Bogle, the creator of index funds, but if you missed my last video, critically important, so definitely go and check it out. Much better to take your investment advice from them than clowns like Dave Porkboy, who got rich selling a sports website and enjoys gambling with his countless millions of dollars on the stock market. And like any degenerate gambler, when he wins, thinks he's a genius, but when he loses, he tries to downplay that or gets very upset.
The midterm elections are like a year and a half away, I think. If the stock market sucks, there's going to be a blue wave. Like if the stock market is like what it is right now, and it's becoming close to the midterm elections, we will have like 100% Democrats. 100%. Because that's how people vote. And I would too. In a year and a half. I'm not in the panicking party yet.
Thank you, Captain Obvious, but you are in the panic party. 1 week of the market downturning, and he lost millions of dollars because he's in a bunch of high-risk investments. Because he obviously doesn't know about what a balanced portfolio is, okay, which I'll get into later in this video. But not as pessimistic as this clown. This is a writer for the Daily Wire, I believe, and he posted a screenshot of some DMs that he got from a friend of his who says is a conservative right-wing Republican. And he says, dude, I'm voting Democrat. Legit, thought I'd never say that. Newsom for sure. Any Dem in Congress. Just insane this is happening. Oh no, the market drops a little bit and we have one correction in over a course of a week and he's ready to vote for the Democrats. And then this Daily Wire writer responded, can I take a screenshot of that and post it? I will not include your name. Sure. Even if Trump reverses course Monday, it's too late. So Dave Porkboy is concerned, which is a reasonable concern, about if the market is down during the midterms. That is going to be very bad. But this guy threw in the towel after the market being down for less than a week. It's too late. Can't trust him again. But speaking of pessimistic takes, Tim Pool may have taken the cake. Now, I have a lot of respect for Tim. I'm not trying to start some beef. I'm just a media analyst, a media critic. I tell you the good, bad, and the ugly, and how the mechanisms of the media work. And this is perhaps the most ridiculous take of the day.
Look, let me just round out this segment by saying millennials can't retire. There's no reality where a millennial retires. None.
Millennials are like in their mid-30s, so they have 30 more years until they reach retirement age. So I don't think one market correction over the course of a week all of a sudden ruined their retirement. So none of them will be able to retire.
Me? Well, I don't care. I imagine I'll end up like 80 years old doing some kind of show to a bunch of other 80-year-olds.
Well, you're rich. Tim, you're worth tens of millions of dollars. You could walk away and retire today, as you have threatened numerous times in the past when you get frustrated with your show and your staff.
Look, man, when I pulled up the data today, because I was looking at the left, the youth left, overwhelmingly pro-violence, and I saw that the median 401k for a millennial is $15,000 to $20,000. I was like, all right, let's put that into wealth management with a historic return of 7%, where you can extract about 3% without hurting your principal. 3%. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have a couple $600, or was that $600 a year? You're pulling 3%, you get $600. Good luck.
Obviously, math isn't Tim's strong point because they're not retiring with that $20,000 today, Tim. They're not relying on that money to then carry them until they're 85 years old. They're going to continue working for the next 30, 35 years and investing, hopefully, preferably 10% of their annual income into their retirement fund. Gather around millennials and Zoomers because Uncle Dice is going to teach you about investment calculators. Here is one at calculator.net where you can enter in the starting dollar amount that you have. We'll put $20,000 in there because he said the average millennial has $20,000, $15,000 to $20,000 in their retirement account. And then after 30 years, so we'll just assume they're going to retire at 65. Probably won't, but let's just be conservative about that. Average return rate, we'll put 7%. Usually it's probably 8, 9, but we are entering into uncertain times, compounding annually. Additional contributions, $600 a month, which might seem like a lot, but if you're making $70,000 a year, that is about 10% of your money, which you should be investing into your 401k. And if you have a job with a stable, large employer, many of them match a few percent. So you can only put in 7% of your salary, and then they'll match you 3%, get you to the 10%. I think you can max it out at 15%. Roth IRAs, a whole other different story. Get into that at the end of this video. But additional contributions, $600 a month. You calculate that after 30 years with the 7% estimated annual return rate, you can have $853,000. It's pessimism like this that causes people to not plan for retirement. And by the way, I'm not giving financial advice. This is just purely for your education. I'll plug a couple important books that I've learned a lot from at the end of this video. But investing for retirement does not mean buying stock in a couple different companies. Like, oh, Tesla's a good company. Elon knows what he's doing. Nvidia has been skyrocketing. I'm going to put some money in there. That's not a balanced portfolio. That is not the way to do it. A lot of people need a good talk from someone like Vincent, the hitman that Tom Cruise played in the fantastic film Collateral. If you haven't seen it, I won't give away the plot, but basically he plays a hitman who hijacks a cab driven by Jamie Foxx, who he forces to drive him around all night. And throughout the course of the evening, the two get to learn a little bit about each other. And it becomes clear that Jamie Foxx is afraid to actually break out of his shell. He is afraid to take the steps that he needs to take in order to achieve, or hopefully achieve, or at least try to achieve his dream. Until he gets this fantastic speech from Vincent.
How much you got saved?
That ain't none of your business.
Someday my dream will come. One night you'll wake up and you'll discover it never happened. It's all turned around on you. It never will. Suddenly you are old. It didn't happen. And it never will because you were never going to do it anyway. And all it ever took was a down payment on a Lincoln Town car. For that girl, you can't even call that girl. What the f*** are you still doing driving a cab?
He dreamed of starting a limo company instead of working as a cab driver for someone else, but was always too afraid to take that first step to try to work towards that goal. Well, that was until that one fateful night when he happened to get a hitman as his passenger. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I think this is the only time where Tom Cruise played a bad guy. And he didn't just play a bad guy for the sake of playing a bad guy. Tom Cruise is very careful about the roles that he chooses. And as you can see, even though he is the bad guy, a very bad guy, he actually ends up helping Jamie Foxx in the process. If you've seen this film, then you know this scene hits extremely hard. If you haven't, hopefully you still get what it is that it's trying to convey, what I'm trying to convey, because we all have wasted way too much time out of fear, out of doubt, out of indecision, when we could have at least started taking those first steps towards what it is that we want to do in our life, with our goals, with our dreams. And while I don't give investment advice, I do give book recommendations. And if you're interested in investing and planning towards what will hopefully be a retirement someday, I would highly recommend ordering Tony Robbins' book, Money Master the Game. I'll leave a link to the Amazon listing down in the description below. And or John Bogle's little book of common sense investing. It'll cover everything about balanced portfolios, about the market conditions, about market corrections, all that stuff, Roth IRAs, all the different accounts. Everything is in these books. So if you're interested, and I don't know why you wouldn't be, you'd be a moron if you're not, then click the link in the description below, head on over there and check them out.